Now that Moon Knight has ended and I have gotten each episode reviewed and the series reviewed, the only logical thing to do now is to rank all the episodes. I wanted to do this a few days ago, but I was finishing up school, and now that I'm done for the semester, we can get into the ranking. Now, as always, this is my personal ranking and is not a definitive ranking, so if you are not okay with it, luckily, you do not have to share the same opinion as me. There are 6 episodes. I like all of them, but only one can be at the top. So just because something's at the bottom doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that there's 5 episodes that just so happen to be even better than that episode. So with all that out of the way, let's hop into the ranking. And in 6th place, we have episode 2, Summon the Suit. This episode has a lot of stuff to accomplish. This introduces us to Layla, it furthers the whole Mark and Steven thing, as well as revealing some info about them. It tells us who Arthur Harrow is and what his goals are, and on top of that, we do get to see some Moon Knight action. But my issue with this episode actually lies with episode 1, because episode 1 is so well done that episode 2 is almost bound to be a disappointment. And though I was not actually disappointed with this episode, I did have some issues with it. I think it pulled the curtain back a little bit too much, and though I've come to respect that because of how the whole series panned out, at the time, I did take a lot of issue with the fact that most of the questions I had regarding the show were all answered 2 episodes into the show. The episode also feels like it doesn't do much differently from the first episode. What we get is a good look at Moon Knight for the first time and how he operates and how badass he can be, but the fight scene doesn't feel too different than from what we saw in the first episode. In the first episode, at a moment that Steven's about to die, he's about to get destroyed, he gives control to Mark. Mark comes in and deals with the jackal they're fighting instantly. In episode 2, at the moment Steven's about to die and get eaten, he gives control to Mark, and Mark comes and defeats the jackal instantly. There's not much interesting to the fight, it's just a bit of a rooftop chase, and then he does end it in the coolest way by grabbing the jackal and jumping off the building and like slamming it down that post on the building to impale it, which is awesome, and I love that chase scene. I could watch it over and over, but it doesn't feel like much evolved from the first episode. But this episode does have one of the coolest endings because it focuses on Mark Spector at the end in Egypt, telling us what the rest of the series was going to be, and it did not disappoint. In 5th place, we have episode 3, The Friendly Type, and this is the episode that's usually at the bottom of a lot of people's rankings, but it takes the second to last spot on my list. To me, this episode gives me a little bit of everything. We get more development for Mark and Steven. We get to see them working together, and it really starts to establish the feud that they'll have through this episode and the next episode that then gets dealt with in episode 5 and further in episode 6. We get to explore who Layla is as a character. They go on this fun adventure where they have to find this treasure, and Steven has to try to solve it, but Mark is not being cooperative. We get a good look at Egypt. Mohamed Diab, the director, said he wanted to show Egypt as more than just what's usually shown in movies, and we do get to see more of what Egypt is like, and it's exciting. As well as that, we actually get to see Moon Knight in action. We see just how cool he is, and he's immortal. This dude tanks bullets, he gets stabbed through the chest, and there's some awesome humor with the switch between Mr. Knight to Moon Knight and back, and this episode has the coolest ending of the show when they're rewinding the sky and Steven is holding it in place as he loses his powers because they're encaving Khonshu in stone. This episode does a lot, but it was a lot that I liked. To me, this was a great blend. It gave me a bit of everything I like, and it didn't leave me yearning for more. It also teased Jake Lockley. And coming in 4th place is episode 4, The Tomb. The Tomb is an absolutely bonkers episode for the reason that there is not a single second of Moon Knight in this episode beyond the previously. This is Steven, Mark, and Layla going on an Indiana Jones style adventure, and who doesn't like Indiana Jones style adventures? Who doesn't like Raiders of the Lost Ark? Seeing Steven out in the desert putting his Egyptology skills to use to solve these puzzles, and him and Mark feuding, and the joke where Layla kisses Steven and then Mark controls the arm to punch him in the face, that's so fun. And the twist This episode has a twist 2/3 of the way through, and we spend the last 15 minutes in the afterlife, although we don't know it's the afterlife at the time, and it's thrilling. We see a projection of Arthur Harrow in there. We see Layla, we see Donna, we see all these characters who have popped up throughout the series, and of course Mark and Steven reuniting, which is such a great moment, followed by the funniest ending I've seen to anything in my entire life.
Hi.
Bringing us into the top 3, the top half of this list, we have episode 6, Gods and Monsters. I love this finale. A lot of people are disappointed with this finale. I'm so happy I'm not one of those people. I was thrilled from beginning to end with this finale. It had a lot to wrap up, and in my opinion, it wrapped it all up great. We get to see Layla, Steven, and Mark all kick ass. Layla becomes the Scarlet Scarab and she can fly around, first Egyptian superhero. Mark and Steven flip back and forth on a whim now because they're tight, and there's this awesome shot where we see Steven throw his baton, Harrow deflects it, and it comes back and Mark catches it. That whole fight of Steven just mowing dudes down, it's the best action scene in the series. And to the people who complained that the show didn't have Daredevil level action, they never said it would, but this scene is the closest we do get to that. And the kaiju fight. How could I not love the kaiju fight? Who doesn't love a good kaiju fight? You have Moon Knight and Arthur Harrow fighting in the foreground, and in the background, at the base of the Great Pyramid, you have Khonshu fighting Amit, and they're both gigantic. What's not to love? Harrow is defeated off screen, but I actually kind of enjoy it. I think it works out for the story they wanted to tell. Mark and Steven would not be the ones to defeat Harrow in such a brutal way. It had to be Jake. It had to be Khonshu taking over and getting his guy in there to do it, because as we learn in that final scene, Mark doesn't want to kill Harrow, which is something a lot of people misinterpret. He's not saying that he all of a sudden has good morals. He's telling Khonshu that if Khonshu wants the guy dead, he has to do it himself. Mark's not he's not doing this guy's bidding anymore. It's a great moment. And the ending of the episode is great too, when they wake up and they're tight now. And then that eventual Jake Lockley reveal of him assassinating Harrow with a gun that has 0 recoil. And you can't tell me that you were not an emotional wreck when Steven was revived.
You are the only real superpower I ever had.
Our runner-up is episode 1, The Goldfish Problem. It's very rare to see one of the Disney Plus premiere episodes this high up on the list, but here we are. This is the greatest pilot episode of Marvel television. Any Marvel television. We follow Stephen Grant, a gift shop employee, bunch of crazy stuff's happening to him. He doesn't understand what's going on. He thinks he has a sleeping disorder. Little does he know, he has DID. And the episode covers so much stuff in 50 minutes it is, and it doesn't feel jarring. It feels natural. We see him he finds himself in a different country. He finds himself in a chase scene. He finds himself in that heartbreaking steak scene, which I don't ever want to watch again because it's so sad. I feel so bad for Steven. Oscar Isaac is the greatest actor the MCU has ever had. Elizabeth Olsen and Oscar Isaac gave the 2 best performances in the MCU in the same week. It was a good week. There was a great balance between humor, drama, and mystery, and of course the ending of the episode is fantastic. It's the episode 2 ending, but even cooler because of the eventual reveal. You go most of the episode, you don't see a single flash of Moon Knight. In the trailer, there was a flash of him in the mirror. Not in this. They took that out. It's all Oscar Isaac for most of this episode, but you know something's coming. So when that reveal at the end that Moon Knight is that he's here, it's all the better. Because it's not a jarring reveal, it's not a sudden shift. The entire episode's building up to this moment. And when he beats that dude into the tile, I was so entertained. It's such a good ending. I play that ending on loop sometimes until the song at the end is stuck in my head and I can't get it out for 2 days. That's how much I love it. This should be an example of how Marvel should kick off their shows. This is perfect. Shout out to Jeremy Slater for writing this masterpiece of an episode. But coming in at number 1, of course, we have episode 5, Asylum. It wasn't even a competition the moment this episode wrapped up that this was going to be the best episode of the series. This is the origin story for Mark Spector, Moon Knight, and Stephen Grant. We see how they all came to be. We see what Mark's childhood was like and how he was abused emotionally and physically by his mother, which led him to manifest Stephen and Jake unknowingly in his mind, and Stephen learning that he was made up. And it was a genius move to have these events be shown through Stephen Grant's eyes. And then to see Moon Knight's origin, while it was short, it was so beautiful, and I had chills during the entire rise of Moon Knight scene. Oscar Isaac gives the best performance ever in this episode when he has to do the breakdown scene and he's crying in the street and losing it, and then he switches to Steven. It's perfect. This episode could be his entire resume. And the actor that Oscar Isaac has the best chemistry with is, oddly enough, Oscar Isaac, because the Stephen and Mark bromance that we see in this episode is stupendous, and how Mark is looking out for Stephen because Stephen was literally meant not to see all these horrors, and the way they bounce off each other, you forget it's literally the exact same actor playing both characters. And the ending when they're on the boat with Taweret and Stephen sacrifices himself to save Mark so Mark can go to the Field of Reeds, broke my damn heart. It is an A+ episode in a show that was already an A+ before this episode aired. It is fantastic from start to finish, and it is the best episode. Alright, there you guys have it. That is my ranking of all 6 episodes of Moon Knight. What is your ranking? Be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, leave a like on this video, subscribe, click on the bell icon to receive all notifications from the MCU HQ. That's going to be it. Have a great day, guys.